This is Jonathan Matos of GraphicallyChristian.com. Great Christian. No.
Wow, not once can you ever get this. Hello, everybody. This is Matt Snipes, GraphicallyChristian.com. Great art made by Christians for everyone. Welcome.
I hate you so much.
See how easy that was? It rolls off the tongue.
This is Content Aware, sponsored by GraphicallyChristian.com. I'm not even going to try to do the motto, because I mess it up every single podcast. Okay, what I do know is what this podcast is about this week. Before we get into that, which is we're going to go over. It's basically a haul podcast, which if you haven't seen makeup hauls or book hauls or any type of haul video on YouTube yet, where have you been? But also, it's just like, people go to a store, a bookstore, a CVS, I don't know, and they talk about the stuff that they bought. Hey, you can get pretty good makeup at CVS. I know because I have women in my family.
Right.
And I'm not going to insult them by saying that they go to CVS for their makeup.
But you kind of just did.
I think that's just the only place I've actually seen it. So it's not. Anyway, my point, if I have one, is that we're going to be talking about the things I got from the library this week and the things that Matt got from the comic book store this week.
Well, not specifically this week, over the period of the past couple weeks. Dude, I'm just specifying, 'cause I have a lot of books that I'm so backlogged on. Like, I have, probably 20 books here from, the past 3 weeks that I've only read, 7 of them? 7 or 8? I don't know. Anyway, that's not the point right now.
One of the many downsides of having a day job is that you can't spend all of your time reading comic books, even though you want to.
It's the simultaneous upside and downside. Like, I can buy all these books with no real major impact on my finances, but I can't read any of them. Why? Why does this exist?
Okay, so the State and Union, before we dive into the meat of the podcast, we run a site called GraphicallyChristian.com. It hasn't had as much content as usual, aside from this podcast, because there are some things in the works. We're doing some work on revamping and reworking some IP that we have, as well as how the site works as a site in general. So be looking forward to that. Also, Matt is working on antiviral.
I'm doing it right now.
Literally, as the podcast goes on, he is hard at work. And so that'll be premiering. As we're kind of negotiating things around, we decided to launch everything at once. So our tentative date is October 1st. But yeah, just look forward to big changes coming to GraphicallyChristian.com. But as for the meat of this podcast, I'm going to talk about some of the stuff I got to the library. Now, I love the library just because, as I was starting to learn how to write comics and draw comics and stuff, I was just overwhelmed with the amount of things I could get. I believe I went through the DC Comics Guide to Writing because I got that at the library, and a number of other writing or art books that I got there, and then they also just had a wealth of graphic novels and different collected comics there, and ever since then I've just been going there pretty much every 2 weeks, if not once a month, to see what's there, to see if there's anything new to pick up. One thing that I noticed there was that they started collecting the trade paperbacks of all new XMen, which is it's basically part of the soft relaunch of Marvel Comics, and I guess how they set it up was that they knew that they were going to be getting into Secret War, and they were going to start getting into a lot of older backstories. So I think before that even started, Brian Michael Bendis started writing this X-Men book, All New X-Men, where the basic premise is that Hank McCoy finds out that his mutation is taking effect or taking like a negative effect on his health, and he thinks that he's dying. And so like the results of Schism, which was an older X-Men storyline where the Phoenix Force returned and they were not sure whether the Phoenix Force was going to destroy everything. There was a number of people that were defending the Phoenix Force and thought that it was a positive thing for the X-Men. And I think Cyclops was the leader of basically that faction. And then Xavier was on the side of people that were aware that it was dangerous and, were basically trying to get to defeat it. And Cyclops ended up killing Xavier. And so we start this all-new X-Men storyline with Hank thinking that, Cyclops needs to be kind of reminded of who he was. And even though the Phoenix Force kind of took over Cyclops, and so there's kind of a debate as to whether he was in his right mind when he killed Xavier. But Hank McCoy, or the Beast, his solution is, I'm going to go back in time to the first X-Men team when it was just Cyclops, Jean Grey, my younger self, Iceman, and Angel, and I'm going to bring them to the present, and maybe Cyclops seeing the young version of himself will be the only thing that can remind him of his former idealism and, who he used to be, and how maybe he won't, inspire mutants to be more like Magneto. And kind
Basically,
of fight.
It's the reverse plot of X-Men First Class 2, where older Xavier had to go meet younger Xavier and be like,
Right.
nah, don't drink yourself to death, bro. Be like me. Get all bald and old and like stuff.
Okay, you're severely underselling Days of Future Past for those who haven't seen it.
It's okay. It's an alright movie. The most interesting parts of that movie weren't delved into at all, like the actual future parts. Like very short.
Listen, okay.
Let's not get off track. Let's not get off track. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
it. Anyway, so to me it's a big kind of like fan servicey type thing because, you're being introduced to these characters that you might have nostalgia for even if you haven't read the original X-Men. And so, and there is a lot of, kind of, cheap emotional involvement because, you're seeing this person meeting his young self, and if that kind of storyline, if you like that kind of thing, you're obviously going to like this. It's kind of like The Kid, I guess, with Bruce Willis and whatever the kid's name was in that movie. Okay, it's not like that at all, but the point is, obviously, the new direction of Marvel is we're gonna look at the past and compare it to the present that we have now of all this craziness, and kind of dwell on that and see what are the differences, where have we come from, and it's a way to kind of show X fans how is the whole family of the X-Men progressed, and put a little bit of perspective in that book. So, in one sense, it's nothing new in the sense that it hasn't delved into the Secret Wars yet, which I don't know. I know a lot of the comic books in general at Marvel, when Secret Wars hit, it was just kind of balls to the wall, what is going on? I heard that there was a Punisher Doctor Strange hybrid and all this really weird stuff. So it hasn't gotten to any of that yet. But it seems to be a nice kind of the quiet before the storm in the X-Men universe. And it's gearing up for that. So that'll sell that to you if you want to pick up any of the all new X-Men books. I also got Jack Kirby's Fourth World, the first omnibus. It's like a hardcover comic collection, and the back cover says that it's Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, which I think was a title back in the day, but it's also it uses the Superman comic to introduce the New Gods, the Forever People, and Mr. Miracle. So it's basically just like a reprinting the debut of all those comics and showing you how the Superman comics kind of led up to their introduction into the DC Comics universe. And for those of you who don't know, Jack Kirby is one of the most respected, if not the most respected artist in comic book history. And some of these pages are just like amazing to look at, and they kind of show like how ahead of his time he was, in terms of like showing like dynamic comic pages, or like, some of the comic pages you'll look at them and you're like, this is kind of like run of the mill 70s comic art, but then there'll be a page that just like slaps you in the face with how good it is. So I'm gonna look at it for that alone, just to be able to look at all that art, even if I don't necessarily have the time to read through all of it. But I would recommend it for somebody that, kind of wants to see what Jack Kirby did in the 70s over at DC, since, most of his history is with Marvel. So that's a good collection for that. And then this is more just like commercial for the For Dummies books. I really liked them. And that's kind of like, everybody's like, oh, hardy har, you like Dummies books. But for anybody who hasn't read them, I just got a book that's called Starting an Online Business All in One, and it's 11 of the For Dummies books in one that have to do with managing an online business. And they're really just like, if you're not familiar with them, if you haven't looked at them, it's just like, taking a bunch of like the best, I guess to describe it, like you're taking all the best web articles that you find that are useful and just putting them all in book form. And I just say that because like people that are used to reading articles on the internet, they know that like the reading is a lot different than reading a book. Usually it's just like a bulleted way of getting concentrated information on a specific topic. And so that's kind of like what the Dummies books are to me, is that you get all the information that you need in a very simple and direct way, so that if you don't necessarily have the time to read somebody like doing a really detailed and kind of like laborious information, if that's not the type of, if you don't have enough time to go through that, then you can get a For Dummies book and just get all the information you need, take notes on it, and then move on to actually applying it to what you're doing. So it seems like this book is no different, and I'm enjoying it so far. But yeah, that's my rant about what I got at the library. I don't know necessarily whether we have enough time to get Matt's opinion on them, but I'm sure he wants to get into
I
his
have no
comments,
opinion on them whatsoever. I don't care.
I figured. I know you're not an X-Men fan.
I don't know. I mean, it's just I never really. I'm not like a big team fan, really. Like in terms of books, like
Right.
the only ones that I even would really get into is like characters that I'm really already interested in, invested in, like Justice League and stuff like that. Like I already really like a lot of those characters individually. It's kind of interesting to see them play off of each other. But like the X-Men, it's like, I don't know. I just never really clicked with me. I don't really know what the word is. So
Well, it's kind of interesting because like, there's a balance to me of the drama of, or like the metaphor of coming into your own, and so that is always something that I'm a sucker for, and I kind of enjoy like coming of age stories and like origin stories. And with X-Men, there's always like a constant influx of this is the new generation, and how does the old generation prepare them for adulthood, basically. But there's a dichotomy with that, and I think if you were to get this book, the all new X-Men, how they're writing it, it's kind of like a combination of those two in the most like overt way. In that, like, there's the coming of age thing, but there's also the whole minority thing. Like, we are a people that are being oppressed. How do we start this revolution? How do we do something that is going to actually protect our people, and make sure that that we are seen in a realistic way, as opposed to, we're all seen as terrorists just because this one extremist like Magneto or whoever is going crazy at the time. Just because he's crazy doesn't mean that all mutants are crazy. So the all new X-Men kind of blends those two things, and I don't know whether having both of those themes constantly in the X-Men like detracts from either of them, but I know that that's the one thing that I kind of enjoy about it, is that, like, they're it's all these young people that are trying to trying to learn how they can be defined as, like, apart from their minority, or whether they should be defined by it or not. So yeah. Yep.
Fascinating.
Okay, big boy. What? Let's hear about your Batman books.
I think that's all that really matters, right? I mean, like Batman, like there's nothing. Then might as well. There's no other comic books in existence, really. Okay, so no, I'm just messing around. But I have like a lot. Just to kind of go over why I'm only discussing 2 series today, is I have. Let me see. I got 6 here, and I have. I just dropped all of them. You gotta be kidding. Okay, I'm not even gonna bother going through how many I have. I think I have like something like 20 unread comics that I still have yet to go through. So look forward to next week's Hallcast, where I'll probably be talking about all the Justice League Gods and Monsters, and on the entire Convergence series and everything, because I should have all that read by then.
I would be interested to know if there's like a somebody listening to this podcast that's like the guy in Rain Man, who, like, he heard all the comic books drop in the background, and he was just like, he knew instantly the number of comics that you have.
That's a very specific Rain Man. I can tell when you drop a stack of comic books on the floor exactly how many fell. It's like, don't really know if that's ever really useful.
No, there was a scene in the movie where a bunch of toothpicks fell, and I guess the difference is that he had been they were on the table in front of him, so even though they weren't like displayed out in front of him like individually, he was counting them inside the container, and so when the waitress knocked them over, he told her how many there were to pick up, and it was something like 700. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
back to the issue at hand. I have a ton of books I have yet to read, and a lot of books I'm excited to talk about. Today I only have been able to talk about 6 of those books. So next week is the one we're going to really be like the super Hallcast for me, where I get to talk about several different series and over a dozen different books. But today we're sticking specifically, for me anyway, we're sticking specifically to the main series, Batman, that Snyder and Capullo are hitting off on. Specifically talking about books number 41, 42, and 43. Those are that's what's going to be known as the Jim Gordon trifecta, leading thus forward. Jim Gordon's new Batman, for those of you who don't know, you should know by now, and that's really no spoilers, so stop berating me in the comments. I'm going to pretend like we have people who are in the comments for a couple minutes. But, yeah, so Snyder Capullo, awesome as always. I don't feel like I really need to do much explaining here. I don't think that these guys have made a single Batman book in their entire run that people are like, you know what? Not so great. I feel like they've pretty much done very well this entire run. I mean, they started on Batman with Night of the Owls, like 2 or 3 years ago now, and they've just gone through so many things. And the most recent thing they've gone through is Bruce Wayne not being Bruce Wayne anymore. Apparently he has like super amnesia, like the point of amnesia where like literally his brain chemistry has been reconstructed, so he knows that he's Bruce Wayne and he knows who Bruce Wayne used to be, but he is not that Bruce Wayne, which is, I'm not really going to get into because you can read the book to get more into it because it's pretty interesting. So it's like Bruce Wayne's, they pretty much done it and written it in such a way that's very effectively shows the reader that, like, look, Bruce Wayne ain't coming back for a good while. Like, he's going to come back. He's been in a couple scenes in certain books. So they know that he's still there, and at some point he's going to be Batman again, because of course Bruce Wayne's going to be Batman again at some point. But it's like, look, it's not going to happen for a while. Like, literally his entire brain chemistry has been rewired. So it's like Jim Gordon's the Batman for the foreseeable future, which I'm super on board with, because I don't know about the average listener or reader or whatever, but I love different versions or alternate versions of like popular heroes. Like, I love Thomas Wayne Batman. I even grew to love Dick Grayson Batman, even though he really wasn't that different of a Batman. Like, a little different in terms of how he does things, but he still kind of operated the same. I love that. I love, Red Sun Superman. I love Kingdom Come Superman and all this stuff. So as soon as I found out that they were making a Jim Gordon Batman, I was like, what? Yes, please. And when they announced that he was going to have a mech suit as his primary way of being Batman, I was like, can you reconnect the jaw to the face, please? Because I'm drooling and I don't know what to say. So every book in this series, the 3 that have come out so far, have been, very well written, very engaging, kind of keeping me tied in this entire time. And of course, the artwork is just above and beyond.
I was just going to ask, like, you don't have to, if there are, like, spoilers, you can keep them to yourself. But in terms of, like, since there is a Mecha Batman, have they changed the villains at all to, or in the world of Gotham at all to kind of suit that? Okay.
Pay no attention to the massive boombox that apparently needs to be happening in my back alleyway right now. Like, apparently it just is an absolute necessity of life that people blast.
It's okay. I don't hear it as much as
okay, good, because it's really irritating. Like, literally, it's blasting right outside of my window, and they haven't been blasting music all day. Like, really? Okay. Batman. What was your question?
I was just saying, with the villains, like, has the landscape of Gotham changed to need like a mech suit, or is it?
Okay, yeah.
How
so
did they do that?
They give him the mech suit because, like, Jim Gordon's like 46, and he just doesn't have the physical stamina and ability that Batman does. But B, he also doesn't have any of the techniques that Batman has learned or developed over his entire career. So he has, like, it's basically the bat suit is like, this new bat suit just like, it's all about cutting his learning curve. In that being that he can operate in such a way that he's definitely different in terms of how he moves and how he fights than the previous Batman, but he can be just as effective, because even though he fights very differently, it's still super effective because he just has so much more capabilities than the previous Batman had. Like, he has like a ton of tech in his gear, and so far they've kind of been having him fight villains that Batman, like a regular old Batman, really wouldn't stack up very well against. Like, in the first issue, they have him kind of fight like this lightning creature, and I'm not gonna spoil like how he defeats them, but yeah, it's like he can go toe to toe with a giant lightning creature because he's in a mech suit and he's like 8 feet tall, and he can actually like go toe to toe slugging with this thing, as opposed to like regular old suited Batman who's like 6 something and he can't just go up to like a giant lightning creature and be like, I'm gonna friggin' haymaker you in the face, because this thing's like 14 feet tall and like made of lightning. So they're definitely pitting him up against villains that are really much more affected to his fighting style and his new character, which I know like Capullo, well, like Snyder knew he had to do. Like he couldn't just pit it up against the old villains, because it's like it's a wasted opportunity to bring the new villains in, and B, it's just like I don't really know if it'd be super interesting watching him battling Penguin with his machine gun umbrella when he's literally bulletproof. Like,
Right.
So it's
Yeah, I was just wondering whether this would be like an excuse to say like have him fight somebody like Killer Croc or Solomon Grundy, who is in the Batman mythos but maybe hasn't been in the book for a while, and so they would reintroduce that, or like you said, like introduce new villains. And
okay. Yeah, I mean, so this kind of goes into that. They're introducing one new like nemesis, like Joker level villain for him, and that character is called Mr. Bloom. Not much is known about Mr. Bloom. You don't even actually see him until book number 3, and you don't actually, he doesn't actually even have a scene until the end of book number 3. But Mr. Bloom is apparently handing out these sorts of like capsules that are like, absorbed or sewn into your skin that instantly give you like a metahuman like ability. And so he's kind of like a metahuman drug dealer, more or less. So all of a sudden, all these random, street thugs and stuff who were just random street thugs and like low-level gangsters, all of a sudden they had these crazy metahuman abilities. Kind of like if you've been watching the Flash TV show, just all of a sudden these random people are just, tearing up the town or just going after Batman with this crazy new metahuman ability. So like the first book, he fights a dude who can, it's like a lightning man type thing. I almost spoiled how he does it, but I'm not going to, because that spoils the resolution of that book. But in the second book, he goes up against like this triad gangster who all of a sudden can make himself into like, he can basically take all the materials around him and make himself into like a type of golem, more or less. So he's fighting those two guys. In the third book, I'm not sure the third book. Third book, it goes a little bit more investigative, and he's kind of like, it always gets to that point. Like usually in these books, the first 2 books are like, big, drag out fight scenes, and then the third book is like more of an investigative thing because they dive more into like, who's the mysterious figure, haunting Batman. So yeah, the third book, they kind of go into more of the investigation thing, and it's kind of cool because he technically has 2 suits. He has the mech suit that he does like his big battles in, but then he also has like this kind of like super slim, like regular Batman suit with like no cape or anything. It's kind of like something you'd think like a Splinter Cell type suit, if you're familiar with that series, that video game series anyway. And he has like this little taser gun that shoots electrified batarangs and whatnot, because he doesn't have like the throwing skills that Batman has. And they kind of go into that in like some of the scenes in like the second book, and or the third book, and it's a little humorous because he just like Jim Gordon, no matter how much he practices, he can't nail the batarang throw, because he's only Batman can nail the batarang throw. Anyway, so he does kind of have that extra suit, which kind of makes things interesting because the other suit is more designed around stealth and stuff like that. But I think probably one of the most interesting things writing-wise and story-wise is that this is a Batman sponsored and employed by Powers Industries that is legally working in conjunction with the Gotham Police Department. And he is thus responsible to all the bureaucracy, the politics, and the people that comes with. Like, he's no longer just a Batman lone vigilante. He's now a Batman with strings attached. Like, every time he goes out and fights someone, he's actually on the clock. Everything's being monitored and registered, and all this. It's basically like surveillance camera footage of like everything that's going on. So like they kind of go into like parts in the third book where he has been like told not to continue this investigation, because that's not his role, or the GCPD is going to handle it from here on out. But he obviously wants to, he's Jim Gordon. He's a cop. He can't just like let it go once he has, a piece of evidence in his hand and he thinks he has a bad guy to catch. So they've kind of gone into that a little bit where it's like, is he still, is he just a giant cop, or is he a giant, superpowered cop, or is he like a vigilante? Is he still part of the vigilante? Like, is he going to try and play that line? Because they made it clear that, he can't really do his job. He can't really be Batman, like, in this current capacity with working with the GCPD. So there's like parts where he's kind of conflicted and he makes some different decisions in terms of like, not kind of being more vigilante-like as opposed to just being like this kind of like police force symbol, like this public, protector symbol. So it's been really interesting. Like I thought when they first started the series, I was really excited and really interested because obviously the mech suit and then the whole Jim Gordon thing, I was like, oh, that's a really cool combination. But I kind of felt like this worry that I was like, is this just going to be like a bunch of, knockdown, drag out mech suit fights and, not too much else, which honestly I'm on board with just because I'm a mech junkie. I don't really know if that makes it a good book. But the fact that they kind of made him tie into the Powers Corporation and and then consequently being forced to work with the police department and being forced to work inside of that bureaucracy, they make it a very interesting and compelling read moving forward because it's like he has this new conflict, this new tension, kind of with his job being Batman, in addition to the obvious, conflict and tension happening with this new, mega villain, Mr. Bloom. So all that to say, Batman main series has been an amazing read so far. If you're not reading it, what's wrong with you? But on the same token, did anyone not expect this? It's Snyder and Capullo. I mean, did anyone not expect this to be amazing? These guys literally, like, they poop gold. So,
okay, Batman Beyond time. We started talking about poop gold. Time to move on.
Okay, so the second book that I've been reading is the recent reboot of Batman Beyond, which the first 3 issues are out right now, and I've read all 3. And yeah, it's been pretty good so far. Batman Beyond, very different book than what I was just talking about with Batman. I was very interested and excited to find out while reading these books. And it is a little bit of a spoiler, but hopefully it's a good spoiler in the sense that it gets you very interested in this. But Batman Beyond kind of takes place in a bit of a like dystopian, like borderline post-apocalyptic future where so the main villain in this new Batman Beyond series is Brother Eye. Apparently Brother Eye has become insanely powerful and has literally, taken over the entire world and has pretty much decimated the vast majority of the world's population, at least as far as they know in this series so far. Like, they haven't found any other, remnants of any civilization that's still alive in this current future. And Gotham is still around because Gotham is protected by something called the Veil, which is something that I guess Bruce Wayne developed in his old age before he died as like a protection over Brother Eye specifically, I believe. For those of you who don't know, I realized I just kind of delved into this and just kind of been throwing around Brother Eye back and forth. But Brother Eye, to kind of give a little context, is a sentient AI that Batman developed way back. Like, I don't know exactly when the books were written. I assume sometime in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, that Batman developed this sentient AI called Brother Eye, which eventually, for some, to monitor and for security and to make him a more effective Batman because he could find things the instant they happened or something along those lines. I haven't read the book specifically where Brother Eye has his origins, but that's what it is. And obviously Brother Eye, at some point, like all sentient AI in popular fiction, goes rogue, goes, evil. Humanity is its own greatest enemy, blah, 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 blah. And So Brother Eye goes evil. Batman figures out some way to destroy it, but being a super intelligent computer AI virus thing, it always finds some way to survive. It always has some sort of backup device or blah blah blah. And so Brother Eye has kind of survived throughout the years, and he pops up every now and then, but he's not been really that popular recently. But all of a sudden, this new relaunch of this new Batman story, or Batman Beyond story, Brother Eye is like destroying things in Neo Gotham, like 100 or so, well, like 50 or 60 years in the future or whatever. So he basically destroyed, like I said, he basically destroyed most of the Earth. So most of the Earth is like an apocalyptic wasteland, except for Gotham. And he's desperately trying to find Gotham, Brother Eye is, and he can't find it because of the veil. And so he basically is like, he captured the Justice League and stuff like that, and all this is the minor spoileries. But anyway, the big hook to this is that Terry McGinnis, in the books leading up to this, before the relaunch, went back in time to try and, I guess, stop Brother Eye or something. And, there was, I'm not sure exactly what series he's involved in, where this all played out, but he basically sacrificed himself in the past to save somebody or something. I'm not sure exactly. And in doing that, he gives Tim Drake the Batman Beyond suit and then the ability to jump back into the future, basically making Tim promise to save the future from Brother Eye. Like, he thinks he's sending Tim, like, into the future, like, a few years before Brother Eye has, like, taken control. Which I'm not going to spoiler exactly what happens with that in regards to that. But anyway, Tim Drake is the new Batman Beyond, and he's kind of like battling. He's coming to grips with like this new world and having all this stuff happen at the same time, this new suit and being a new Batman Beyond. And it's really cool because they kind of deal with like different themes. Like, there's one book where he's kind of like in a Brother Eye, kind of like, I guess it would be like a Holocaust style camp. That's the closest thing I can compare it to. And it's really interesting. It's a very diverse book in terms that it's just very different from most other books. Like, when I picked this up, I just really expected more of like cyberpunk Batman, which I was totally on board for. But then they kind of throw some whole post-apocalyptic hook in there, which I totally didn't expect. And it makes it for a very, very interesting, read. Because, to be perfectly honest, the writing and the artwork, while certainly satisfactory and definitely good, it's not like jaw dropping or amazing or just like on the edge of your seat type stuff as like Snyder and Capullo stuff are. Which, to be fair, very few books are. I try not to hold books to like the Snyder, Capullo, or like the Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale, or Frank Miller, Klaus Janson level. I mean, those books are like the legends, they're the greats. So I don't hold it to that standard. But at the same time, it's decent. It's not the greatest read. It's not the most amazing art. I definitely think the art style is cool and interesting and definitely fits the tone. But all that being said, I think the post-apocalyptic kind of setting that they throw in here really kind of adds to the interest of the book. It really, takes a book that kind of would be a decent book and a little interesting, but just really adds this whole other element to it. It just really makes it very interesting. You're really interested in seeing what happens next, particularly because you don't really know who's going to make it. You don't really know, what's going to happen in this post-apocalyptic world because so many major characters have died or something along those lines. So it kind of gives this feeling that, no one is necessarily safe outside of Batman Beyond himself or whatever. And it's just this very interesting world to see Batman in for the first time, I feel like, really. I mean, I don't really think there's been a post-apocalyptic Batman book. I mean, there may have been like an Elseworlds tale or something like that. But, yeah, I don't know. So those are the two series I've been through.
Sorry. Yeah. But you kind of bring up a good point, and I feel like is kind of similar to what I was talking about with all new X-Men, in the sense that like I think the concept itself of bringing the old X-Men back into the future to deal with the new Cyclops and his kind of like acting out. It's kind of similar to that in the sense that like neither of these are approaching the level of something like, I think Marvel was at its best when it was doing like House of M and Civil War, where they were such new ideas and Bendis was like at the top of his game, and it seems like with both Marvel and DC, they're doing stuff where it's like, they're kind of like going into their history and seeing like what characters can kind of be revamped and redone in ways. And I would say probably that DC is winning just because, like I was talking about with Gene Luen Yang doing Superman and different creators being put on books where they're just being given the chance to do something new. Like it seems like DC is the first to recover from like just redoing old ideas and revisiting old storylines, but at the same time, it's like there's a reason why these people are on like these big name comic books. So like if you pick them up, like they're doing their job. They're making decent books. It's just I feel like from what you're describing, like DC is finally getting over like the whole convergence thing, and I mean you can go into next week in terms of like how you think that storyline worked. But it just seemed to me like for a while, both DC and Marvel were doing this thing where they're revisiting old storylines, and now it seems like they're finally getting to the point where they're just going back to making new ideas and really interesting pitches and interesting world building, as opposed to just revisiting old storylines. But anyway, that'll be it for this edition of Content Aware, where we talk about our hauls, and not the breath mints. Even as I was saying that, I realized how stupid it was. Do you have anything else to add aside from ragging on me for my puns?
No, stay tuned for Graphically Christian. I think we try and get some behind the scenes posts and maybe a vlog or another a short podcast discussing the changes that we're going to be making in the coming month or month or two. Just to kind of I feel like it might be a good idea. Just kind of let people know that we're not just saying we're making changes just to give ourselves time or just arbitrarily. We actually are planning some major changes for how our content rolls out and how you guys see and access our content, as well as just brand new content altogether. So,
and one thing I'll say is that I'll probably include a link in this video. Right now, I'm promoting my first novel, Cain and Abel, and that I would say that's 25% of why we're kind of revamping stuff, because we each kind of have little mini projects that we're promoting. But yeah, we'll definitely get into details in another broadcast about how this is going to break down and what our plans are and what you can look forward to. So this has been Content Aware, sponsored by GraphicallyChristian.com. Great art by Christians for everyone. Yay! All right, bye-bye. God bless everybody.